Alright, so the Cantarella swimming situation is crazy. But no, seriously, people are talking about how this is traversal power creep or exploration power creep, and I honestly don't know if I fully agree. We'll go ahead and get into this. Some of you might not even know what the heck I'm talking about, so let's go ahead and dive in. But first, if you like this kind of stuff, consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help out, and we're making that push towards 10K, which will be the first milestone for the channel. So first, some details. Cantarella can swim literally faster than any character in the entire game, and it's not even close. She's swimming out there like Michael Phelps, and everybody else is swimming out there like your cousin who almost drowned in the local swimming pool when he was 9. She can also charge her forte while swimming and even use a heavy attack which launches her into the air afterwards, and she gets to just kind of sit there floating around, which, dude, the floating on water aesthetic is pretty cool, but honestly, is it really that broken? In fact, is the entire Cantarella swimming situation even that big of a deal? Yeah, she can swim faster than other characters. Like, who cares? Are people really swimming around that much? Is it really that big of a deal when every other character in the game can already swim, and you can also just use a gondola, which already moves faster and doesn't have a stamina bar of any kind? Yeah, sure, like the gondolas aren't everywhere, but I think you get my point. This Cantarella swimming situation is not as bad as people are making it out to be. But I get it. This is a feature that is locked behind a character that you would have to pull in order to be able to get. But honestly, are you guys really sitting there thinking that you're really going to be utilizing this in some broken way that's going to give other players FOMO? I don't really think so. Now, the Phoebe situation, that is kind of busted. Actually, it's not kind of busted. That is straight up broken. Being able to fly around everywhere like that, that's crazy. That is actually traversal power creep. That is actually exploration power creep. This whole Cantarella thing, it's just a little bit more comfy, and I don't really think it's that big of a deal, straight up. But I get it. I understand. And I know that some of you have probably already left some type of comment trying to say that this character having this sets a bad precedent. And I understand that. I understand the concern. I'm glad that Wuthering Waves players are aware of this type of stuff after seeing it in so many other games. Like Genshin does this sometimes, where they'll lock some exploration style feature behind a character, and often it'll even be behind not just having the character, not just pulling the character, but getting constellations for that character in Genshin Impact. It would be resonance chains for a game like Wuthering Waves, right? But that's not what's happening here. It's not locked behind resonance chains, it's not locked behind sequences, it's literally on the character just at a baseline, but it's not even a feature that is breaking the game. But let's go ahead and talk about that bad precedent. Just a quick little interruption. I know that I'm using B-roll from other games that aren't Wuthering Waves right now. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. It's a commentary video, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to change things up. But if you guys don't like it, just let me know in the comments, and I'll, consider not doing it in the future. Kuro Games, thankfully, has been listening to their players, and I struggle to think of a thing that they haven't listened to the players on that players made a big fuss about, right? Including Wuthering Waves. Bro, Frame 1 of the new update, they were already listening and already said they're going to change things by the next update. And this means that the devs are probably not going to implement this type of stuff too much going forward in a way that is going to make players feel what you would call FOMO. It's just a little nice feature on a character that doesn't break the game in any way. It just makes the character a little bit nicer, just a little bit more comfy. And I actually commend them for this type of strategy to a degree, as long as it's not making players feel like they have to pull the character to get some specific feature. I actually like this. Could you imagine it was like Genshin and they never implemented this type of stuff for literally years? Remember, dude, when Wuthering Waves came out and people found out you could just run up walls rather than crawling up them like a little baby in Genshin Impact? And I'm not even hating on Genshin here necessarily. I'm just saying it's nice to see different implementations, different quality of life features being added to characters, as long as it's done in a fun and innovative way that doesn't hurt the game state. I think this is actually kind of a W. Unlike the Phoebe situation, which I do think is headed in a bad direction, right? I love Wuthering Waves and everything, but I do criticize the game where I think it's fair, and I actually do not like the Phoebe thing. I don't think that's good for the game state. But as long as they add things like, for example, Phoebe does have that feature, but she has that feature in Rinasita, right? She has this in the 2.0 areas where you have a fucking glider, dog. It's not that bad, right? It could be worse. I will say she does get to use this feature in 1.0 areas, and we don't get to use the glider in 1.0 areas. But Kuro is hopefully aware of the player sentiment, and they will start to implement these sort of backtracking style implementations that we get in newer areas, but put them in previous areas as well. Something that Genshin, for example, is struggling to do. Hopefully Genshin gets aware of that too and they start to do it as well. I'm not trying to hate Genshin, it's just an example because they also have traversal features like this. And a lot of people were crazy stoked about the Forte charging while swimming, but and that is nice. You can charge the Forte while swimming if you're near, let's say a hologram or something like that, and there's some water nearby, and you just want to charge up your Forte before you go into the hologram or something like that. You can just go into the water and do that. That is kind of a nice feature, but I don't think it's so broken that it, should make players necessarily mad. You could just go kill a bunch of enemies with any other character the same way. I genuinely think this Cantarella swimming situation is basically a bit of a W, where I think the Phoebe situation is a bit of an L. The Phoebe situation heads into not so great of a direction. It's predatory practice style stuff you would see in other games, even though, yeah, sure, you always have that argument of it's not as bad as Genshin or something like that. Sure, you always have that's on the table, but it's still heading in not so great of a direction. Players are not stoked about that type of feature if they don't have that character, whereas the Cantarella situation doesn't feel so bad. It doesn't feel game-breaking. It doesn't feel like a genuine feeling of missing out type of situation. I have a feeling in a month or two, people are gonna completely forget about this whole situation and it's gonna completely be in the past. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is just the start of them doing this kind of stuff with a whole bunch of other characters. That could technically happen, but I think as far as Cantarella is concerned, it's not a big deal. It really is not. But yeah, this is the worry that a lot of players have is, okay, almost like the Casteress situation in Honkai Star Rail, where she has a passive ability coming to the game, and it's definitely coming into the game. They're not getting rid of it, and although the Casteress situation isn't that big of a deal in herself, it sets a precedent for the future characters that they are also planning to bring in the game with global passives that are active all of the time on your account. Those are going to be broken, but the first one with Casteress is not. And so maybe the situation with Cantarella is worrying people that sure, maybe Cantarella isn't a problem right now, but they're more worried probably about what's to come someday down the line if players don't make a fuss about this. And that is something that I can get behind. The worry that this is just the start of things to come, when other future characters might literally be able to fly around in every single area up and down at super duper high speeds, and there are no conditions. They can just take off from the ground and go to any place in the entire game with no stamina requirements whatsoever. And when they show up there, Yinlin sucks your dick afterwards too. I get it. People are worried about what could come if players don't make enough of a fuss about the Cantarella situation. But it is kind of hard, to be fair, to sort of make a survey sort of submission to Kuro, hey, we're worried about what might be coming later on down the line, but the Cantarella's fine, so maybe this is okay, but just I don't know, you guys better watch out. Anyways, so I do feel like players should make their voices heard on this situation just to prevent things from getting worse. Right? Like the Phoebe situation was, because if they've already dropped the Phoebe feature into the game, and then they kind of dropped the Cantarella situation, and that wasn't really that bad, it doesn't stop them from continuing this type of strategy with other characters in the future that are more like Phoebe. Because if they keep doing that, I definitely don't think that is a good thing for the game. I think that they should, if they want to do this, but they also give free-to-play options as well, such as the glider or something else like that. Maybe one day down the line we get an item that helps us swim faster if we do a special quest or something like that. If they do something like that is a free-to-play feature, I think this whole situation's fine. You know what I mean? Having something a little silly, a little fun on a character that makes him a little bit more cool, I like that kind of stuff. As long as it doesn't, create a feeling of missing out type of situation like Phoebe did. So if I can try to wrap this situation up as quickly as possible, the Cantarella swimming thing, really not that big of a deal. The Phoebe flying thing, yeah, that's not so great. Let's not do that kind of stuff again. However, if they want to add features that are free to play that every single player could use and even backtrack and put some of those features in older areas, then I think all of this is fine. right? As long as Kuro is hearing their players and they're listening to what we have to say and they understand that players don't want this going forward, I think we'll be okay. Now come at me if this ends up happening again and we have like other characters with like actually feeling of missing out situations that aren't good, and we'll address this situation again. In the meantime, make your voices heard. Kuro listens. If you like this kind of stuff, consider leaving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.